And and welcome back to Little Cuts. It's been a minute. Our weekly minisode where we dig into things that we've been watching and or playing recently, I think. I don't know if you're bringing anything else. I'm Terry.
I'm
Tired.
tired. Yes, I'm tired. And I'm also Mary Beth, and I'm back. And this week we're chatting about an insane queer-ish New Orleans shot SOV slasher, a YA gay adaptation, dicks, vampires, and lots of dungeons, hell yeah, creepy wall girls, a sad sci-fi film, and a Safdie Brothers-esque nightmare about day trading. I've actually watched movies this week. Because I, for a couple weeks, had not watched much. So I was just
Why? Why, Mary Beth? What have you been up to?
So for those of you who didn't know, I was off in Kentucky filming my feature film debut. Weird. I co-directed a feature with Jamie Alvey called Bystanders, and it is a rape revenge movie, and it's really bloody, and I'm excited about it. And yeah, it's hopefully coming out next year. I don't know yet. We're in post-production now, and yeah, that's why I was gone. That was my super secret project. I couldn't announce it, but the announcement went up last week. Yeah, last week.
Yeah, last
week. So
right?
Now it is official. Yeah, time doesn't matter. I don't know what time is anymore.
I don't either.
So yeah,
Wild.
I know. It's pretty awesome. I'm really, really proud of it. It was a very small budget with very little time, and so I think with the limited resources we had, we made something pretty fucking cool. So I'm excited to share it with the world. As you all know how much I love rape revenge movies, so I'm really excited to be a woman directing a rape revenge movie. I'm excited to have a film like in the canon, which is pretty fucking cool. So yeah,
that's so amazing.
And I'm going to talk about it a lot forever, so get ready. You're going to just hear about it a lot, listeners.
I cannot
so just,
wait.
Get ready.
I cannot wait to see it.
Yes, I'm a filmmaker now. Weird shit.
What the fuck?
Weird shit. I know. Absolutely bizarre. I celebrated my 2-year anniversary at Dread Central while I was there, and I was like, not whatever I thought I'd be 2 years ago. Could not have told you that this would be where I am. So it's pretty cool how quickly things kind of change and shift. Terrifying, but cool.
I can't believe it's been 2 years. It feels both like eternal and just yesterday.
Yeah, this is the longest I've ever been at one job. I usually don't stay at most places for more than 2 years, because 2 years is about when I hit and they're just like, no, we're not going to actually like promote you or give you more money. And that's when I'm like, go fuck yourself. But here, actually, it's stressful as hell, but like I'm taken care of by my boss. So it like, hell yeah, that matters for something. So, So yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does.
Do I wish I made more money? Who doesn't wish that?
Of course.
But, they at least, they let me make a movie. So like, that's pretty cool. So yeah, good for me. Look at me. Stability, not leaving a job in 2 years. Millennial life.
Wow.
Or whatever. But yeah, so that's where I've been. I know Tony said lots of moths. If you've seen my Instagram and any other social media platform, there were many a moth to be found in Kentucky. And so it was very exciting.
Apparently lots of spiders, you told me offline.
Yeah, so
I would not have survived.
There weren't... No, yeah, you would have hated it, actually, now that I think about it. Because they weren't big, like, there were, like, normal spiders everywhere, but I know that you hate any kind of spider. So for me, I was just like, whatever. But for you would have been like, I'm going to light my hair on fire. But one morning we found, it was like, we had just finished an overnight shoot. We were like exhausted and stoned in the kitchen, like eating food. And we look over and there's a spider like this big, like on the kitchen, like in the sink. And we were like,
nope.
What do we do about that? We thought it was a brown recluse. So like we freaked out. It ended up not being one. It was a fishing spider. Whatever the fuck it was way too big to be around. Like, I don't care what it was. because we also had a black widow that lived like in the stones by the front of the house, and then we had to flip something over for a like part of the set. So like this far we filmed on this giant farm, and like we lived on the in the cabin, and so we filmed like all around the property. And there was this one part of the property that had like an old truck on it, and we had to flip something over, and there was like 8 brown recluses living in it when we flipped it over, and I was like, get out! And we just like, I'd like spider spray. Yes, it's terrible, but I was like, I'm not dying because of one of these motherfuckers.
No.
So, yeah, there was a lot of coyotes. Yeah, I really was nature girl for 3 weeks. It was wild. I do not miss the bugs. And the problem also was that the cabin that we filmed in was also where I slept. Mm-hmm. And not everyone slept there. And when we were like coming in and out of the cabin, people wouldn't shut the doors. And so bugs would fly in, and I would wake up covered in mosquito bites because bugs had flown in whilst through the day. And also like it was a log cabin, so it wasn't insulated super well. So yeah, it was an experience.
The joys of indie filmmaking.
Yeah, oof, Jesus, let me tell you, being den mother to 23-year-old boys is certainly quite an experience. They were very sweet and very kind and very like, they were not that messy. It was just funny because I was like, it's like my little brother. But I was doing their laundry, getting them towels. Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was awesome. So, can't wait for everyone to see it.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see it. I'm so excited. But I'm also excited to talk about the movies that we've seen today and the games we've played. So let's start with this queerish NOLA SOV slasher.
Okay, so this is one movie I did watch when I was in Kentucky, and I had to share it because I really it was more like the experience of watching it. So this movie is called Goregasm, and it is perhaps like the weirdest, the most, like, it was a movie that I had to turn off, and I had to turn it off because of the context we were watching it in. So this movie is from 2007. Our production designer, Ben Miller, like lived in New Orleans. He saw this at a film festival when he was like he was not sober. And he said like, I need to show this to you, Mary Beth. Like, I feel like you'll really appreciate it. And I was like, cool. I'm so excited. And he told me about it. And then all of a sudden, like everyone wanted to know about Goregasm on set. And they were like, what's Goregasm? And he was like, it's just like, he's like, well, you know, there's a serial killer in it called the Cockface Killer, and he kills people. He kills people for having sex. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I can vibe with that. And so he brought the DVD. We had a projector and a DVD player. And so our one night off, we had like everyone over for a barbecue, and we watched a movie. And then the late night showing was going to be Goregasm. And I was like, okay, everyone, like, this is really fucking weird. So like, this is like for like horror heads only. No one left. And when I say no one left, I mean like all of the actors that were there stayed, and like people that were not like this is like not August Underground, but like it's like the kind of weird shit I like, but not that I'd show anyone like at like a group screening experience.
Right.
We ended up playing it, and I got to a point about an hour in where I saw there was 40 minutes left, and I was like, I can't subject the rest of these people to this movie anymore. I think we have to turn this off. And we did. And everyone was like, thank God. And I was like, because I got to a point where someone was like shitting into a glory hole, and a man was eating the shit coming into the glory hole kind of situation. Like, it was like, and then it was like basically porn, like, but with murder in it. So I was like, look, I can handle this, but like not these actors who like, and again, it just was a lot. It was an aggressive movie watching experience. And I bring it up because I loved the story, and also I feel like all of the weirdos that love us and would watch it would probably find something to enjoy in it, because there's also like a group of women led by a trans woman who's a dominatrix who are like getting revenge on like rapists too.
What is this
And like
movie?
it makes there's so this movie basically has no script. There's like no script. It's literally
Yeah.
like they just all were like, this is what the scene is, and then they're like, all right, cool, let's do it, and then they just did it, and then they edited it all together, and that made Goregasm. This is the second film about the cockface killer who has a gimp mask and then just like a dildo hanging off of it.
Jesus fucking Christ. I am on Amazon and I am looking at this DVD and I'm thinking about buying it. Is that a bad decision?
No, it's not. It's Goregasm, baby. I'm gonna tell Ben that I'm spreading Ben Miller, our incredible like production designer and special effects guy, was like, this is what happens, Mary Beth, when you let me pick the movie. Like, you shouldn't have let me pick this. Like, why did you know me? Like, why would you let me pick the movie? I was like, why are you blaming me? You bullied me into watching Goregasm. He's like, I thought we were going to watch it at 1 a.m. when no one was around. You showed it to the children. And I was
He
like,
showed it to the children.
and then all the boys could talk about for the rest of the shoot was Goregasm. And I was like, look, we're spreading. It was like if John Waters was worse. Like in extremity and quality. Like when I say worst, I mean like in all aspects of what the meaning of the word. It's like trashier John Waters, which is saying something because Divine eats shit in a movie.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's Goregasm. So I guess y'all can do with that information what you will. But yeah. I figured all the fucking weirdos like Tony, like you said, are interested in these kinds of things. And it's queer. Again, it's queer. It's weird, but it's queer. So,
wow.
I don't know. Yeah, wow. So let's talk about a YA gay adaptation.
How am I supposed to follow that, Mary Beth? Like,
yeah,
Jesus.
There's not much. You can't do much. There's not much you can do after that one. We might have to just end the podcast forever.
Speaking of queer cock faces, I watched the adaptation of Red, White, and Royal Blue, which is
yes, very similar themes.
So similar. Which is an adaptation of the book that I talked about earlier this year on Little Cuts, which is a story about the president's son and a prince of England who are basically like an enemies to lovers type of storyline where they don't really like each other. You read this
recently, right?
Yeah, it was earlier this year.
Okay, so you talked about yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, okay.
And so it's about like this relationship that kind of develops between the two of them in secret and the fallout of this kind of queer romance when we're dealing with heads of nations and whatnot, especially with Britain being so uptight in the royal community about queer people, and this idea of like traditional values that the monarchy wants to espouse. So I bring this up because I don't think this adaptation is a fantastic adaptation of the book. I do think it misses some of the themes that the novel explored, particularly with the vanishing idea of like queer history. Because the one character, the Prince Henry, who is in the movie played by Nicholas Galitzine, who is in Bottoms, which is coming out, which I saw a few months ago, which is coming out this month. He's obsessed with like history and queer history and how the queer history has been erased. Particularly, his perspective is also from the UK and the monarchy. So like, there's a lot of the interaction between the two of them because, and again, this was a problem for the movie, in my opinion. A lot of their interactions are through text messages because they live in two different countries separated by an ocean.
Yeah.
And so the movie does some interesting things with that, like superimposes him, like pretends like he's in the scene when they have conversations. And so it does some things to like establish that, but I do think it misses some of the subtext and the important themes that the book was trying to explore. So I don't think it's a perfect adaptation, but I think it's fun, it's sexy, it's rated R, so there's like a couple really sexy scenes.
Oh, is it really?
Mm-hmm. And it's YA, but it's also about 20-something gay characters as opposed to teens. And
okay.
And so like it's just basically a romance that unfolds between these two guys and what that means for Alex, the son of the president, played by Uma Thurman, who is attempting to figure out his own sexuality while trying to win his mom a second term as president, while Henry is
Okay.
dealing with trying to hide his relationships and understanding that he has no future as a queer man potentially in the kingdom. And it's cute, it's messy, it's not perfect, it's a little long. I mean, it's a 2-hour movie, but it's out as of today when this episode drops on Prime, and I would recommend checking it out. It's
Cool.
cute. It's not it's about a 3 for me. It's about a 3-star movie for me, but I
Okay.
do want to bring it
You
out
know
because
what?
it
Good. We don't have enough queer, like cute,
well, that's
queer
exactly it.
movies. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't need to be perfect. It can just be like
Yeah.
cute and gay.
Hmm.
Like
And it is cute and gay.
the
And let
straights
me
get
tell
that shit
you,
all the time.
exactly. And then let me tell you, the guy that plays Alex, Taylor Zakar Perez, is dreamy and adorable, and I love him. I love him. He's worth watching just for him. He is so effortlessly
Mm-hmm.
charming.
Hell
So
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Cool. So
So
two
yeah,
sides
that
of
was
the queer film spectrum. Fucking
there you
what?
go.
And aw.
Watch them together. Double
Queerness.
feature time.
Yeah, honestly, and I'm not really sure. It's like Barbenheimer. I'm not sure which one should go first and which one should go last, but it really just depends on like what kind of night you're trying to have afterward.
Exactly.
So,
Either way, it's a shot and a chaser. But but yes, that is Red, White, and Royal Blue. Go check it out on
hell
Prime.
yeah.
Sad sci-fi film.
So my crazy ass was also supposed to be covering Fantasia, but I also was filming, so I haven't
How?
been watching anything from Fantasia. So I'm catching up this week on Fantasia stuff. I'm not watching a lot. I didn't know this was dates change very quickly, etc., etc. Regardless, I did watch this Fantasia movie that's actually out today on VOD as of the publishing of this episode, Aporia, which stars it's Judy Greer's movie from Fantasia, directed by Jared Moshe. It's I wasn't sure what to expect from it, and it was incredibly heartwarming and heartbreaking and sad, and like that my favorite kind of sci-fi, and in that it's very grounded and not trying to be like a science fiction movie, but is rather using elements of science fiction to enhance a drama and
Okay.
makes like the future of technology seem much more attainable rather than like a distant future, but rather just like in a couple decades. So Judy Greer plays a woman whose husband has been killed by a drunk driver, and she is trying to kind of pick up the pieces after he's died, and she finds a way to basically go back in time, basically it's like almost like the time machine is like a time travel gun where you can aim it at someone and kill them, and it fixes the past. And so
Oh,
they could,
by killing them?
yeah. So
Oh wow.
yeah. And so this movie becomes about like the dilemmas of changing the past and the consequences of changing the past, not just from like, the butterfly effect stuff, but also, killing somebody in exchange for this, and like the value of life. And there's a lot of really interesting conversations going on in this movie about like, what is your responsibility? Like, is it your right to play God? And it's all done like in like everyday living rooms and like houses like in suburbs and stuff. There's no like weird labs. It's like guys in their garages. And
Okay.
it's really beautifully shot. And it's so Judy Greer plays the lead, Eddie Gathegi plays her husband, and then Payman Mahdi plays their friend. So there's like a trio of them who are like kind of figuring out this weird world they live in where they've basically discovered how to do time travel in a really fucked up way. And I was excited because I love seeing Judy Greer as a lead, but this one like sucker punched me. It's really tender and sweet. And again, it's got like this Benson and Moorhead vibes of like
Okay.
really emotional sci-fi that is like grounded in human emotions and human experiences, and then the sci-fi elements are kind of layered on to just give it an extra oomph. So it's out as of the publishing of this podcast on VOD or in theaters and VOD. So if you want to watch a pretty touching, interesting sci-fi movie, I would definitely recommend checking it out. My first movie of Fantasia, not too bad, I think. So
It's called
yeah,
Aporia.
Aporia, yeah,
Okay. Sweet.
yeah. So I was a big fan of that. And now for something once again completely and utterly different. Dick's Vampires and Lots of Dungeons.
This game has become my life over the last week. It's become a problem. To be perfectly
Uh
honest,
huh.
I've played I think 25 hours of it since it came out on Thursday. Last Thursday, not today. And most of it was over the last weekend when I should have been doing other things.
Yep.
But it is Baldur's Gate 3, the third game in a series that was started back in early 2000s, late 1990s, by BioWare at the time, and this is a new game from Larian Studios. And Larian Studios is probably my favorite studio for video games,
Okay.
period. They don't have
Okay.
a whole lot of games under their umbrella. Well, they do, but like in terms of the kind of game that this is. But this is so they made a game called Divinity: Original Sin, and then Divinity: Original Sin Part 2, which took the kind of themes that BioWare used to explore in their games back with like Dragon Age Origins and before with Baldur's Gate
Okay.
and that kind of stuff, and bring it into a modern era. And so Baldur's Gate 3 is a culmination of their work. It took them, they've been working on it for 6 years. It's been in early access for like 2 or 3. It is an immense game that reminds me of like sitting down with your favorite novel and just losing yourself in a book that you have some agency over. And the things that I have experienced in these first 20 some odd hours are things that like are big moments that would have been the big moment in a video game. Like this is a game
Oh,
that is
oh
packed
my
full
God.
of fantastic moments that give you so much agency. For instance, this one encounter that I ran into is with a bunch of gnolls, which are like these hyena bipedal monsters, and they are attacking someone in a cave. I come across the scene, they turn on me and start attacking me. Um, I meet up with their leader who has like the plot of this game is that there's illithids, which are the mind flayers, the kind of tentacly Dungeons and Dragons monsters that can control people's minds, and they put a tadpole in our brains that is going to eventually turn us into mind flayers. And they've been putting these tadpoles in the brains of other creatures to kind of try to take over the world. And so this Knoll has one, and so I start to communicate through my Knoll, and I convince him to kill his teammates, kill the people in the cave, and then devour himself. And so he sits there and he eats himself. And this is just one possible way of solving this problem. I have run into phase spiders that I destroyed their web and they fell crashing down to the ground. I had sex with a vampire. Um, the game.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I love him. His name is Asterion, and he is a high elf vampire who
Oh.
has an
Ooh.
adorable accent. And um, the interesting thing about like that's really I think very progressive about this game is it's kind of made like headlines because you can pick your genitals. There's like penis A, penis B, penis C, penis D, and then vulva. But you can do that irrespective of your presenting form. So you can be trans in the game. You can be non-binary. You can actually pick to be non-binary in the game. There's all these little things that you. It's all these little things that you do that can like make you feel like you're part of the character, and I think that is fantastic. The penis options are like cut or uncut and hair or no hair. So like there's a range of options, and do they matter? Not really, because I mean you can take off all of your clothes and run around butt naked, But I do love that there are options that will help someone feel that they are playing a character that represents them. And that
That's
is
awesome.
really fantastic. This game is huge. This game is epic. This game is fantastic. I am so in love with this game that this might end up being my favorite game I've ever played.
Wow.
Like,
Okay.
we're talking like this is pure unadulterated fun for Terry, and Larian Studios is the best game studio. And Tyler, oh my gosh, Tony just asked about being able to play the game without knowing anything about the others. Yes, so it is ostensibly a sequel to Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, but it is set 120 years, I think, after Baldur's Gate 2, and does not require any knowledge. I think some characters are going to show up from that game, but like in terms of like story, you do not need to know anything. This game allows you to pick up and throw people, throw things. I've pushed a lot of people off of ledges. It's just it's so much fun. It really it's like it actually feels like you are playing a Dungeons and Dragons tabletop game with like the most chaotic DM imaginable.
Okay. Is
And I
that
love it.
is this also the game where Felicia Day dual wields salami?
Yes. Yes,
Oh
the
yeah.
TikTok I sent
Cool.
with the salami. Yep, this is
Yeah.
that game. Mhm. You also can have carnal relations with a druid who shapeshifts into a bear in the middle of the carnal relations.
Like while you're inside of them?
I'm assuming so. I've only seen a brief clip of it that Larian shared on a stream. They're really pushing the boundaries. I've had relationships with two characters, one being Asterion the vampire because of course, and he is my boo, and allow
My
him to
boo.
I allow him to take blood from me, which gives him strength and weakens me, but I do it
Oh
because I
my
love him.
god.
But I've also
Sexy can.
I've also had relations with the Githyanki, a female warrior who's like this really
Are you are you
strong.
just like a are you a hoe?
Oh, I'm always a hoe in video games. If I'm allowed
Hell
to,
yeah.
I will just let my character be with everyone. Anyone, doesn't matter. But her sex her relationship is like she is by the end of it your character is realizing how like in pain he is because of how intense things were. So like it's a wild ass game. I can't even begin to do it justice. I will be playing it for a very long time and I probably will talk about it again. But this is Baldur's Gate 3. It's out on PC. It's coming out on PlayStation 5 in September and I highly 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 recommend it.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
Yeah.
I've seen everyone talking about it, so good to know.
There you go. And then a Safdie brother-esque nightmare into day trading. I think I know what this one is.
Yeah, so this was one that like was not on my radar, and Ted Geegan had emailed me about this called Trader, and I watched the trailer and I was mildly fascinated because you don't see a lot of movies about the world of finance with a woman at the center of it. There is one show on HBO Max that I've totally forgotten the name of, but that kind of delves into that a little bit, but usually again it's like very much like a man's world. And so this movie is instead about a woman. She doesn't ever have a name. She's just the trader who lives in a basement and is just trying to find a way to make as much money as possible. And she gets into day trading, and it's one person in one location the whole movie, and it's all like done over the phone. And it's all about her like playing the game, the day trading game, and being just like kind of a despicable human being. But like you're kind of like impressed with her for being so despicable, but you also like hate her at the same. Like it's very interesting in how they do it. And I say Safdie brothers, so if you've seen movies like Uncut Gems, it's very stressful in that like this is just one person like day trading. It's not really, the stakes are really only high for her, but the movie makes it feel like the most tense thing you've ever seen. Yeah. And definitely has some like little rough spots, but again, like Kimberly Sue Murray plays the traitor the whole time, and it's just her the whole time, and she's incredible in how she carries the movie and creates this character who just like lies through her teeth to do despicable things to get what she wants. And yeah, it was one of those that like I got an email about it and I was interested. It was like, oh, okay, maybe. And then I watched it kind of, I like Ted and I watched it and I was actually pretty surprised by how much I enjoyed it. So I figured I'd give it a shout. I don't know if a lot of people it's going to be on a lot of people's radars. And I would, want to give a cool indie movie with a pretty interesting premise and it's pretty well executed. Like, give it some love because, again, we don't really see a lot of movies about really nasty female characters like this, and I love that.
Hell yeah! So, and this is out. It's out now on VOD, right?
Yes, it is. It's out now on VOD. So
sweet.
Yeah, check it out. Oh, and the show on HBO Max that I was talking about is called Industry. If you're looking for another show about the cutthroat finance world. But on that note, Creepy Wall Girls. I want to hear about Creepy Wall Girls.
Well, I know you have seen this too, and it came out while we were on hiatus, and I wanted to put people's attention to it because I think it's getting overshadowed by a lot that has come out in the last month. But it is the movie Cobweb.
Yay!
And as of the publishing of this episode, it is out on VOD. It was in theaters very briefly. It was released, weirdly enough, the same weekend in small theaters, the same weekend of Barbenheimer. So like, and then the next week was Talk to Me. So it's I don't think people know about it. I don't think people have seen it. I went on the Halloweenies podcast and I talked about it. I'm trying to like get people's eyes on this because I think it's actually really quite good. It's getting weird reviews, like very mixed reviews, but it really worked for me. And I know you've seen it, but it's basically the premise is that there's an 8-year-old boy named Peter who lives in this very kind of gothic Victorian house with his parents, one of which is Homelander himself, Anthony Starr, and the other one is Lizzie Kaplan. And they're his parents, and they're very weird and a little authoritarian with his life. He doesn't really have any friends. It is Halloween. This is a perfect Halloween movie. It's like Halloween outside. He wants to go trick-or-treating. His mom is like, there was a girl that disappeared a few years ago down the block. We don't let you go do trick-or-treating anymore. The backyard is full of pumpkins. This movie has like this kind of dark Guillermo del Toro dark fantasy vibe to it in like a modern setting. And to complicate matters, Peter, the 8-year-old, starts hearing knocking on his wall. And it turns out there might be someone in his wall. And that person might be telling him to do things, either good things or bad things. It's a little nebulous at first what's happening. And then it just sort of progresses from there as the horror starts to become more pronounced. And I thought this movie was great. I went into it thinking I was watching like a PG-13 movie, and it gets dark and gets gruesome. And there's a moment in it that like reminded me of, well, I'm not going to say what the movie was, but there's a moment where we've had a director on the show, and the moment was very reminiscent of something that happened in his movie. And it is absolutely horrifying. Do you know what I'm talking about, Mary Beth?
Yeah, that I watched it right before I left, and I was like excited for people to talk about it more, and then nothing really happened with it, and I was super bummed because I was like, this is something weird and interesting and like takes this, again, dark fantasy gothic vibe but brings it into the contemporary in a really fascinating way. And Lizzie Kaplan is incredible, and it's all just like very restrained in the most gothic way possible, but also when it's no longer restrained, it goes absolutely nuts. Like, again, I think Samuel Bowden, who also did Marianne on Netflix, is really good at playing with gothic, gothic expectations and tropes, and then kind of twisting them on their head, and that's what he does with this one, and it's fucking wild.
And I
just think more people should see it.
Gorgeous.
It is. It's so beautifully filmed. They're fucking it over by putting it on July. It's just like, They're
I
trying to
know.
bury it, which is like so sad because it's a good movie.
It's a
It's
good
weird
movie.
and original, and it's like, and I mean, like, I know that it's hard. They put it out that weekend, and like, Lizzie Kaplan and Anthony Starr can't really promote it because of the
Hmm.
strike, and I know that that's affecting a lot of movies. The strike is obviously way more important than that, and it's
Absolutely.
interesting to see how that is all like going down. But watch Cobweb, especially now that it's out on VOD, if you want something spooky and getting into the spooky spirit.
It is definitely a Halloween movie. I honestly think I'll probably watch this around Halloween time an awful lot because it really spoke to me. And the it's filmed by Philip Lozano is the cinematographer, and he also did Marianne. So if you've seen Marianne, you kind of know what you're getting a little bit between the aesthetic and between the way that things look. The production design is gorgeous. The way it's lit, there's like this scene where the two parents are talking and the kid is up on the stairs, and it's like lit and there's shadows and it's colorful, and I'm just thinking, you don't see this in horror movies right now. Everything is very desaturated and
Yeah.
very realistic, and this feels, again, to kind of compare it to like Pan's Labyrinth or Guillermo del Toro's work, it
Hmm.
feels very aesthetically similar to the kind of lush production that Guillermo would do. And I, not to say that this is in the same class as Guillermo del Toro's movies, because it's not. I love this movie, but it's not a Guillermo del Toro movie. But in terms of like
Yeah.
the aesthetic and what you're looking for, this movie is the closest I've ever seen to someone understanding dark fantasy, understanding dark fairy tales, and bringing it to life. So, gosh,
Very
I
much agree
really
with
like
that.
this movie.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. And like dark fantasy and dark fairy tales and and like doing it well in contemporary moment is, yeah, it's a really good way to describe it.
Wow. So that's
Movies.
movies and games.
Oh
That's
yeah, that too.
that's this week's Little Cuts. But Mary Beth, who are we chatting with on Monday?
So on Monday we are chatting with Eric Lawrence, who is kickstarting a regional
Lauren.
slasher film. Is it Lauren? Oh, I thought it was Lauren. All right, cool. Blah, blah, blah. We're talking on Monday with Eric Loring. He is kickstarting his regional slasher film called High Beams, and he brought with him Children of the Corn 3 Urban Harvest.
What a I
What a film. What a film.
was not expecting much with this movie, and this movie is actually quite entertaining. I would highly recommend checking it out this
It's
weekend if you have
it's
not seen it.
fascinating. And Eric really loves Children of the Corn in a way that I've never heard before. So it was
Yeah.
very cool to hear him talk about Children of the Corn and defend slash share his love for that franchise. So
And I
get
will say,
excited.
like, I think what surprised me most, and we dive into this a whole lot in the episode, is how good the practical effects work for a movie that is the third in a film that is released on VHS. It was made for VHS in the 90s, which does not bode well for the kind of quality. But Screaming Mad George of Society, of Nightmare on Elm Street 4, of The Predator, uh, like the creature design, he worked on that. Like, Screaming Mad George did the effects for this. And while they look a little bit lower budget because it is probably a smaller budget, it's still fantastic. And yeah, it's a fun film. I was surprised.
Enjoy that one on Monday, y'all. So, listeners, you have heard from us, but we want to hear from you. Did you watch something that we watched and have thoughts, or did you play Baldur's Gate and also have sex with a hot vampire? Do you have suggestions for our next series or movies for us to talk about? You can send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm a Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe, and help support us through Patreon, which we will be working on and getting back into the swing of things very soon.
Yes, we will. Now that I'm back and things are a little bit back to normal. For now, lol. But thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. We are so excited to be back. Stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Woo!